Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 77 of Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. This week, we'll be going into our half-season retrospectives, starting with Season 1A. I'm your host, Nabaticon, and join me today we have Impact
Yo, what's good, everybody?
and Nick.
Everybody.
All right, thanks guys for coming on. Uh, we are recording on May 20th, 2023. News this week. Um, so I think last week, like Matt did an interview with the gamer, uh, just regarding like a year since the Amphibia finale, and we'll cover that. We'll cover those news and the stuff you talked about in that near the end of the recording, since I think it's kind of like its own discussion, and it'll follow well off of our season one talk. But I think aside from that, I think we can go right into our kind of general thoughts of season 1A. So this covers the first 10 episodes of Amphibia season 1 from Ann or Beast to Prison Break. I guess I guess we can do general thoughts. Like this first half of season 1 is it takes a little bit of time to get Anne like adjusted to Amphibia, specifically Wartwood, and also get close with the planners. And we kind of see that happen over the first couple of episodes. Where that happens, there's like where we think that's like kind of like where we think the planners and Anne become like one unit can be debatable, but it does happen by the time we get to toe tax for sure. Um,
Yeah.
but I guess Impact. What are your general thoughts on these first 10 episodes? And I know you kind of came into the show like during when season 3 was airing, so I don't know
Yeah.
how much context did you know about the show before you got into it, before
So
season
I
1.
think so before season one, I think I knew Amphibia as something that was similar to Gravity Falls in the sense like I knew the people made it and I knew like, oh, this is like another Disney Channel thing. Oh, that's fun. Gravity Falls was like lit as fuck. Like I mean let me watch another show. And it was like I was like, I'm trying to find stuff on Disney Plus. I think I when I think back at it now, I think the only thing I remember is reunion, but I don't remember like what happened. I just remember like an image of like Sasha falling, and that's really it. But it was so vague. I think I might have not even like known it was Amphibia, if that makes sense. Like it was such a long time back. So I wasn't really like I wasn't keeping up with the show or anything. And again, just trying to like get find something fun to watch on Disney Plus. So yeah, I didn't really know like too much context of like who Anne was, who Hop Hop was, who any of the planters are, any of the characters. So it was kind of coming in fresh, which again was cool because like, all the bigger scenes in the finales, like even with reunion, even though I kind of knew, but like not really. You know what I mean? So like I saw a clip on YouTube, I think, but that was again a long time back. So like I didn't know the context of the situation. So but yeah, I didn't have a lot of context before that point. So when coming into the show, I'm kind of coming like open arms, like, all right, let's see what Amphibia is about. And like I think season one is kind of like I feel like with season one, I don't really appreciate it till I rewatch it. I feel like I'm like I like Anne and I like these characters, but I didn't feel like I was like super in depth into them until like I did my own rewatch of it, which I've explained before. So like I think now when I think about 1A, I start to really enjoy it. There's a lot of really strong like establishment of Anne's own insecurities and flaws in episodes like Best Friends, for example. We kind of establish Anne doesn't really have a high viewpoint of herself. she kind of considers her own self-worth to be determined by other people. She doesn't really know who she is or her own value as a person. So like, and we're seeing how influential the friendship is to Anne's own kind of mindset of herself, which is going to be important because like Sprig is going to be that fun counterpart to that relationship and that ability for Anne to recognize, oh shit, Sasha and Marcy, the relationship, that kind of sucks, high key, So, but Marcy, it's a little bit more complicated, but still, there's a lot of problems there as well. So, like, I think I really appreciate it for that, and you see how like Anne's own like self worth being determined by others thing kind of comes back in episodes like, was it Contagious Anne? Is that how I say it? Like the pimple one. So
Oh, I think
I
that's
think that was
Breakout
great
Star.
because oh fuck, oops. My bad. I feel like because they're both episodes that have to do with something with Anne being like sick or somewhat, so I think I
Yeah.
mixed them up. But still, like Breakout Star is a great example of that. Which don't think that's 1B. I'm pretty sure,
No, you're
right?
right.
Not
One
1A.
Breakout Star is episode 5.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I'm blanking out. But like I feel like I guess in the same way, like 1A and 1B. I feel like when I think of season one, I think of season one. I don't think like 1A, 1B with this season particularly. And I think that's because in a way it feels more like a whole thing. I feel like with season two, like it still feels like a whole thing, but like there's definitely a divide. You know what I mean? And Dink season 3 is like the clear, most obvious, like, yeah, this is 3A, this is 3B. You know what I mean? You know what people are talking about. Um, but yeah, like you get to see a lot of that fun characterization, her kind of bonding with the planters and getting to know them better. And there's more I will say about that, but like I really like 1A and how it establishes Anne's arc as a character. Pop Pop is the best character in this whole season, like easily. So, and I really like Sprig, and Polly is kind of not bad in this season, but she gets better in later parts of the show. This is like might be my favorite season for her. I don't know. I got to think about that, and I'll talk about other characters later. I really like, but yeah, I really like 1A. It was a fun time and a good introduction to these characters. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Impact. And yeah, there's a couple of points I want to get back to, but like I want to get Nick's thoughts first before I get into them.
Mhm.
So like Nick,
Oh yeah, I mean I'm
oh yeah,
like
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I mean I'm definitely just there for the impact. I mean like yeah, I think like 1A is just really, really strong to me. I think it just yeah, because it really is just about sort of setting up all these characters, showing off who they are, giving us just some fun adventures with them, just sort of like giving us samples of the kind of stories they want to tell of each character, right? Like I think like yeah, it's all really solid. I don't think there's like a single dud. Like I was even before we did this, I was even rewatching some old episodes just to like like just to help me with my thoughts here. And like yeah, I don't know. It's always like every time I look back at this season, it always just felt like a very tight introduction to the show because it just felt like they had a very solid, clear ideas for what they wanted to do with just each episode, honest to God, because I think yeah, you just go from like Anner Beast and Best Franz, which is just like yeah, a setup for Sprig and Anne's friendship, and then King Crazy, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Hop Luck, Stakeout, like that's just Anne slowly getting used to living in the Planter family house, right? Like that's just like there's just like I think there's like a very I want to say there's like a super because come on, this is like a very episodic show, so I can't go. There's like, oh, I can't just say like, yeah, there's a very clear, consistent direction. I do think like, yeah, if you just sort of break it down, just look at it from like the writer's perspective, yeah, you can definitely just see they had very clear intentions for all these episodes, and yeah, I don't know, man. It's a really strong opener to the show. Just like looking back, because it's like Amphibia had a very Amphibia had a goal, and I think they definitely just hit it with 1A.
All right, thank you, Nick. And yeah, like I think these first a lot of what Impact said, like I'm kind of like piggybacking off that. It's like a lot of these episodes I think we're very consistent. I think I don't want to get too much into it, but I think 1A felt like all round more consistent than 1B. But I think 1B just had like those like higher
Yeah.
highs. But
And yeah, those bangers, those bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it's like, how do you? I feel like it's just because I feel like every time I don't know because this is just like my own experience or ride, but this is just my own theories. But I feel like every time I don't know, like when you eventually get to the point of an idea where like the stories just start flowing out, I feel like no, I was going to say like all the good ideas come first. So no, no, no. But it's more like I feel like all the ideas that are just strung together really nicely. I feel like those come out because I just feel like there's just like this sort of like consistency to these episodes. Like they just because if here it's all just about setup, and I feel like in 1B it's just damn. I'm like every time like the immediate word that comes to mind, I'm like, damn, is that too rude? No, I think I really like I really like 1B. I think it's just like I feel like you have I feel like there's a reason why we have like episodes like Croak and Punishment in 1B. You know, it's just we're that sort of middle ground and we're like we're not and we're kind of just waiting. We're not sort of middle because like a lot of the development happened in 1A, and by the time in 1B, it's just sort of like the aftermath in a way, and we're kind of just waiting for Sasha to get there in a way, like
well,
in a way, in a
wait,
way,
well,
in a way, in a way.
let's not
I was
get
just
too
saying,
much into 1B, but like 1A,
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
was
yeah,
yeah.
1A definitely
yeah,
has like
my bad.
it's okay. Like it has a lot better
I think
like progression where
like
I think in the background, like this is kind of unrelated, but I think in the background you can see Anne's bed sort of like forming into an actual bed.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I
You're
think
right.
Oh, I heard a post about
one of
that.
our friends, I think
Yeah,
Orb pointed that out. Like I think the same thing happened too with Owl House, where it's like when Moose first came in,
yeah,
it's like the floor, and then like it slowly builds over time in the background, which is like credit to the background artist for doing that.
yeah.
It's a great detail. I think like I definitely agree there. I don't want to go too much into 1B, but like I do feel like 1A felt like I would agree it feels more consistent. I feel like 1A feels like not like plot wise we're moving forward bit by bit, but like character wise we're getting more about Anne, we're getting more about Hop Pop, we're getting more about everyone really.
Yeah.
I did feel like 1B can sometimes like we're sometimes vibing a little bit in 1B. Man,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I want to go to the whole thing. I'll talk about it next time. But like
yeah, yeah.
I
We'll
did think
get
one A
there. Yeah,
was more consistent. Especially one of the more I think about it as being two split things. So
yeah. It just felt like I think 1A. I think a huge benefit for 1A. It just like this is the beginning of the series. They have like you can tell the crew has like a bunch of like very clear ideas they want to do with this group, which is obviously introduce them, have them go on adventures together, show off and set up her arc. Just have Anne give Sprig chances for adventure. Like a lot of that informs this first half, and I think that's just why funny enough looking back, there's like it's funny because this is a very episodic series, right? But you can still tell like there's like a solid sense of direction, and like I feel like you really only start appreciating that when you just like have everything basically complete for you, right? Like you just know what this series is going for.
yeah.
Yeah, and even in these first couple of episodes, it's like episode one had like Anne and Sprig adventures. And then episode two, you had Polly thrown into the mix. And then episode three, that's when Hop Pop became kind of involved in both episodes. And then
Yeah.
like I think episode four was again like I think like a family adventure for the taking charge episode. Um, and then like episode five and six, like that those both kind of involve the town. And then so there is like a bit of a progression. Like, I think even the first couple of episodes we kind of start on the most of the episode takes place like at the planner home or the planner like yeah the planner farm. Uh,
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't realize that. But yeah, that's true. They all take place. in the farm. I think we start expanding by the time we get to like Ant Def Auto and Breakout Star. I don't remember a episode happening in the town before that, right?
Well, we
Like,
do have a couple episodes in between, like where they kind of go on an adventure, but they don't
oh right,
they don't feature like the town itself. They're kind of
Yeah, it's like a quick scene. Like I know, yeah,
like
and it, yeah, that's right.
some are in like the valley or in the swamp. But I'm just looking, when do we actually see?
Like the whole town. Like, I mean, I guess you could say Kane. I don't know, because like, do you mean just like an actual episode that like the town's like a general setting for the episode? Like, do you mean that?
Yeah, I meant like that. Like that doesn't really happen
Okay, okay,
until
yeah,
Breakout Star, I think.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
no,
because
yeah,
like
it takes
we
yeah,
see
it
the
takes a
town
while.
and we
Yeah,
see the town in episode one, but like we're like our characters are like Anne's not in the town like participating, but
yeah,
we do meet Lago and Kane
yeah,
Crazy though, so like we're slowly getting to know more of the town through Lago, Mrs. Croker, or like yeah, so or even like with Toadstool and stuff and Hoplock. So like we're getting a good idea of how the town works, which is I do think that like I don't know, like I do think we're getting a good idea of how the town works, but this is mostly about Anne's relationship with the planters and just kind of going from there. So
yeah. It's also like a real pastoral feel to like this the first half I noticed too, man. Like it's like yeah, because I think yeah, it really just does focus on like what it can pull out these four characters being together. It's like yeah, I don't know, just like a lot of episodes just sort of open up with them just fooling around and having fun. Like I still like man, I don't know. There's just that one scene where like yeah, I think Polly, Sprig, and Anna are just playing out in the field, right? And like I think that might have been. No. I know it's the episode where Anne's showing off Domino on her phone, but I know for a fact that's not the Domino effect because I always trip myself up think it is that.
that's
Like
it's I think you're
I
thinking of
think that
Hopluck,
yeah,
right?
hop luck. Yeah, yeah. I think it's hop. Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
right in the middle of that scene, she smells something that's hop luck. Yeah, yeah. It's just such a sweet opener because it's just yeah, like these first few episodes, it really was just about convince just making their relationship together just feel convincing to the audience. I'm like, yeah, I think like I don't know. It's like I won't lie. I think I talked about this before, but like just when things really felt fresh, when it was really just like at that point less about episodic adventures, just more like okay, there's that sort of depth with like the idea of like these with this outsider getting to know this family in those first three episodes. Yeah, it really gave the series like a different feel.
And I do think
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, Impact.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything. You go though.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I like how and Sprig versus Hop Hop kind of stood out for to me because like the first couple of episodes were like always focused on Anne.
Yeah.
I know, okay, maybe taking charge was more of like a cast episode, like a whole cast episode. But Sprig versus Hop Hop was kind of like because it kind of focused more on like Sprig and Hop Hop instead of Anne, and like I thought that was like an interesting episode. And then when we got to Girl Time, it's like it kind of like completed and having an episode with each of the planners and bonding with them.
Yeah, and I think like with Sprig versus Hot Pop too, like eventually we're gonna expand on that more with like it's not like Sprig is fighting against Hop Pop, but we get stuff with like Fiddle Me This and Grubhog Day and stuff too, where like we're gonna expand like Sprig's relationship with Hop Pop a bit more, which I really like. Because I think like I like that season one really wanted to make the family feel whole. You know what I mean? We're kind of getting a good idea of all the dynamics between each of the family members pretty well. I think with Polly, I think Anne and Polly have a fun dynamic, but I do think like if there's one thing I wish we got more of was like more of Polly and Hot Pop's dynamic a
Yeah.
bit more, and like Polly and Sprig will get that a little bit more well, no, we get this in this season as well. With the forget this what the shipping episode.
Civil
called
War.
off the top of my head. Yeah, there we go. So, but like, I do think that I don't know. I do wish Hop Hop and Polly's relationship was explored a little more. But yeah, you're totally right. And I think like, what's the word? What's the word? Like, yeah, that's it. I just agree.
But yeah, I do agree. Like having an episode for Hop Hop and Polly was always kind of like my biggest kind of like the first thing on my like wish list. Every time we get like new episodes, like oh like because like that's the
Yeah,
only dynamic where it wasn't really like a focus. The closest thing
Yeah,
we got was like Return to Wartwood, and that really wasn't them in the focus. That was just them kind of like being like the cause of the episode. But
the
yeah, the
situation.
situation and like
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
also
think like
I season one would have been a good place to do it because like they kind of like I was gonna talk about Night at the Inn, but that's kind of like one B, so I'm not gonna go
yeah,
too much
one
into
B.
it. But uh, but yeah, I think the Polly and Hop Hop dynamic could have been. I wish it had the same.
explode a little
I
more.
wish it yeah, I wish it got the same treatment as the Sprig and Hop Hop dynamic. Because like Sprig versus
Yeah,
Hop Hop kind of like shows like it's kind of like an interesting reminder that like Sprig is kind of like the he is the oldest child, so Hop Hop's kind of like more like tough
Maybe
on
harder
him.
on him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then like
it's interesting though, because like, oh, sorry to cut you
no
off.
no
I
no
just want to say like, I think it's interesting that like you say that with like Sprig being the oldest kid, but like Anne is eventually she's slowly but surely taking the big sister role. You know what I mean? And I think it's interesting because like obviously Anne isn't like part of the family as soon as she comes in, right? It takes time. And I like Anne and Hot Pop's dynamic is interesting because they kind of have the most conflict out of like everyone in the Planter family, you know what I mean? So like it's interesting in a way that Hot Pop and Anne have like the hardest time getting to like each other. They have problems with like and Kane crazy and like stakeout. And Sprig is on this whole thing of trying to force this relationship to work, which is really funny. Stakeout's fucking hilarious. I love that episode. But like, yeah, it's interesting where like where Anne and Hot Pop become like kind of the main focus for I wouldn't well, not main focus, but definitely like one of the most important dynamics because we're gonna get to the rain and stuff and First Temple. So we need to establish that like Anne and Hot Pop are like they're a tough sell, but eventually they're starting to really get to like each other more. And then we're gonna like destroy it a little bit in After the Rain and First Temple, but then that's gonna, play a bigger factor in Anne's arc overall in the show. But like I find it interesting that the show, like Anne and Sprig's relationship, of course, is like the key relationship in the show. You know what I mean? It's the key thing holding the show together. It's this the most important relationship where like everything else is a center orbits around it. But like Anne and Hot Pop's relationship is also almost just as important in a way, but like it also has the most conflict, you know? So I always found that interesting how like again we have to build it up, break it, then build it again with Anne and Hot Pop. With Sprig, it's like Anne and Sprig, it's like a consistent like the only time where like they have conflict here, which is fun. Blood, Sweat, and Tears was great, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like that episode a lot. But like I felt like with Anne and Sprig, it's more consistently they're in a good relationship, and then like by the end of the show, we just like we split them up, So, but yeah, I don't. I always found that interesting how like we have to build up Anne's relationship with Hop, but then break it, then build it again. So always liked that about their dynamic.
Yeah, I never realized that. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot.
I do think after like yeah 1A has all the conflict with the Ann and Hop Up, and then I think 1B they kind of like
Big chillin'.
yeah 1B they chill a lot more with that, and then like Anne is kind of like more comfortable in her role as like a member of the family, and But 1A kind of like is the one that gives us all of the struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, yeah, because yeah, there really is shit, man. Anne was, she was a lazy brat sometimes. Like, yeah, there's like a lot of that interfamily. Honestly, yeah, there's a lot of that interfamily conflict that happens with like Anne being the new girl, right? Just like because I think Anne really tosses things up. Like she pushes everyone pretty much out of their comfort zone and just yeah, pretty much. Hell, I mean, that she gets challenged too. So yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, honestly, yeah, you're 100% right about that. I think that yeah, it definitely puts things into perspective. Yeah, because I think yeah, shit. That's like a new thought. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
I think like Kane Crazy is definitely like the point where Anne is like shaking up like the family the most because she doesn't really understand like what's the word? Like she's not really respecting Hop Pop's authority that much, and then she breaks the cane and she thinks she's gonna leave. Like Hop Pop's gonna kick her out, and then I don't know. That was definitely the point. I feel like Anne shakes up the family the most. So now they have to go on this whole adventure for the cane, but then Anne is recognizing like Hop Pop's not gonna kick her out, but like Anne still needs to kind of brush up and like be responsible. So like it's the point where like the Anne's relationship with the Panthers is changing her for the better and making her rethink her own mindset. But also like I think Hot Pop is also kind of like to an extent not learning to be less harsh, but like their relationship is becoming a bit more understood to us as an audience because I think like once we do like best friends and flood sweat and tears it's all Anne Sprigg, right? It's all about their friendship, it's all about them bonding with each other and how that friendship is going to be a huge contrast to like Sasha and Marcy, right, once we get to them. But like with the entire family dynamic, I think Kane Crazy is the one to really shake it up and make us understand, okay, like what is Anne's part of the family, and then we're gonna explore that with like girl time and like um with stakeout and stuff with Hot Pop girl time with Polly, and kind of go from there. So yeah.
I'm trying to see like Lily Pad Thai. Oh wait, Family Shrub is part of is part of 1A. Okay.
Yeah.
Um Family like Hop Hop like here kind of like spells it out for Anne, but it's like, oh, I know we all I think I know Nick and I we had different like interpretations where Anne kind of sees herself as part of the family. But for me it was Anne versus Wild, and then I think for Nick it was Breakout Star. But then Family Shrub is when like the episode kind of like when the show kind of tells you that Anne is part of the family. When they
Yeah,
do the whole like
Yeah.
what was her name, like Emma the Newt.
yeah. It was like,
Looks exactly like
yeah,
Anne, but like a new
yeah.
Sona of Anne. Like
Yeah, I'm like, it's always like, I'm always thinking, was that like a Disney mandated thing? Like, did they think kids, like, did we really need to give her like, did they really need the same froze at Anne? Like, did she need that afro? I'm
Yeah, the Newt. She had the afro too. Like
it's like, okay. It's like, damn. I don't know. I don't know.
I wouldn't say it's like a Disney thing. I just think that they were like trying to emphasize
Yeah.
the idea, you know what I mean? But like I know it's interesting that like because Thumb, I agree with you that I always thought it was Ant versus Wild.
a
That was
Oh,
that was the point where Anne like becomes a true part of the family because like Anne wants to be, you know what I mean, in that episode. Like she doesn't feel like she is because the planters didn't invite her to camp and whatnot, and she's trying to prove that she is. She really wants to have some sort of identity with them. So I would agree it is Anne versus Wild for it.
yeah. No, I mean, no. Listen, yeah, I'll definitely agree there. I think with Breakout Star. I think with that episode, I wasn't trying to say like that's where she becomes a member of the family. I think it's more like that's when she's like, okay, actually, the planters are really freaking great, and maybe I should stop screwing them over. Like that's sort of was my thought, at least. Like she was just like, okay, these guys aren't happy. they're actually pretty cool. And then that just slowly developed into what it was in Anne versus Wild.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I think like you could argue that it's just both of them. To be
Yeah,
honest, like it's just a combo. Like, yeah.
And
Like she
like,
never directly says she is a planter, right? But like you just sort of know. You
yeah,
know
you
what
just
I
know.
mean? Like you just know. Like there doesn't have to be like a whole thing where Anne goes like, I'm like she says like I'm a planter. Like you don't need that. Like we know.
Yeah,
You
yeah, no,
just
like
feel it.
100. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because that's like, yeah, I don't know that's. I guess it's like that's like a very specific thing. I like found family stories where it's just like you don't need to announce it, man. It's just something. You just feel it out, and like I think because it would just be so like it's not reflective of life where you can't just have an episode where it's like we just and it would just be so weird for like an episode just to be about a character declaring that I'm a family you know what I mean, you guys know what I mean.
so
It
you mean
does not work like that
Sprig
in
and
real life.
Tie feud?
Oh,
No, well,
oh
hold
yeah.
on. It's a little
Nah, yeah,
different.
hold
Like,
on, hold on, hold on.
No,
That's
no,
different.
no, I'm
Hold on,
messing with
hold
you.
on, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Nah, 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 no, 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 no. That's different. That's different. That's
That's
different.
different. I know. But like, okay, speaking of Ty, it's like Lily Pad Ty. That is
that's a banger.
like, I
That
know
is a
this episode gets a lot of attention, but it's worth it. It deserves it, and I love this episode so much.
yes.
Like, I think even even if we didn't talk about like the episode kind of like showcasing Anne's like Thai culture and whatever, and how it's important to her, it's just a really strong episode in general. Just like her helping Stumpy out and just trying to get his diner to like what was it, get like a good review from like the critic from Duckweed, like.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think this was the first episode where she kind of like, this was the first episode of her like kind of like interacting with like a townie.
Like full time. You mean like that's a
For
full
like most of the
full
episode, it
episode?
was like her and like it's about her and Stumpy,
Yeah.
and
Because like we,
like
we definitely get some stuff with Lago and Croaker, but yeah, this was definitely the point where like this is a full on and Stumpy episode. There's no like we're not swapping between. It's really about their dynamic. So yeah.
yeah, and it was like such a nice change. And I think Matt said something about like, oh, when you like kind of like go outside of your like comfort zone, you meet new people and whatever, you kind of like learn more about yourself. And like that kind of happened with like, obviously it happened when Anne came to Amphibia, but then like even in Amphibia, like once she started interacting with Stumpy instead of the planners, like this is when we got to like learn more about her. And I just thought that was like really nice. And
Yeah, because it's definitely a point where Anne gets to. Aside cutting you off them, I just want to say like because I think this is a point where Anne like what's the word like because I think Anne's like Thai culture and her own ethnicity like was something I don't remember Anne talking about too much, but you can tell how much she loves it, yo. She loves this part of herself. She loves her own culture about it, and I think like what's the word like I think it's one of my favorite things because like Anne, I feel like to a certain degree has shown off stuff to the planters about Earth and whatever. But this is something specifically about her that she loves. You know what I mean? Like it's great. You can tell how much passion she has in showing off her own culture and like I don't know. I always really like that Anne has this part of herself that she like undoubtedly knows this is like a part of who she is something that she loves about herself and that she loves sharing. I think I love that because in this the conflict in this episode doesn't really come out of it Anne having like a super selfish desire. I guess you could say it is maybe, but like I never got that vibe. Like felt like Anne generally just saw someone who was like being mistreated, saw that was bullshit, and then did the right thing. You know what I mean? And like she meant like I guess you could say she went too far with it with like the Kraken and whatever. Like that's true, but like her motivations were like in the right place, you know. And I feel like that's kind of a whole thing 1A is doing, where like Anne first starts off as selfish being kind of a jerk, but like, and she still is like that point, even after this episode or episode she helps people, but you see her like following her heart a little more and like doing the morally right thing by helping the planters out get their food and whatnot, and like trying to with here with Stumpy trying to stop Duckweed from being a jerk, like that's great stuff where you have Anne like stick to her guns and knows what the right thing to do is and then does it. And then when we get to Toe Tax, like that's the big point. So I don't know. I love this episode a lot, but yeah, that's it.
And like usually when Anne kind of brings something up from Earth, like it's usually something kind of surface level, or it's something that sort of like blows up in her face, like the stuff with the pizza that kind of leads them to get them getting eaten, and then you have like her bringing up
Suspicion
Domino
Island.
2, and that leads to them like them almost getting eaten. um,
Yeah,
and then
I was
like
gonna say like
taking
you guys.
charge. It's like the Suspicion Island show. Like they get all paranoid of one another. So it's like the stuff Anne was kind of like bringing in from Earth to Amphibia was kind of like having a negative effect on the episode for like the conflict of the episode itself. But then like in Lily Pad Thai, that this kind of like it works out. I know the Kraken thing happens, but it doesn't. It's not really related to like.
Oh,
It's not like something like how do you describe it? Surface level? Hmm.
Mhm.
like
No,
what do
I
you
know what you're
mean?
I know
Like
what you're
Because
Look, yeah.
it's like for example something like Girl Time, where it's like Anne is trying to like force on her own experiences onto Polly. But then, like in Lily Pad Thai, the Kraken isn't really related to Thai culture. It's just her wanting to do like, it's just her just trying to like make a good meal, and it kind of just backfires. But
yeah, like it's not Anne going too far with expressing her culture, which would be like
yeah,
I wouldn't want that to be like the
Uh,
message of an episode.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
It's
it
like,
was it was more it was
uh,
more like she was like, all right, I gotta impress this critic. Let's do the whole Kraken thing, and then like that didn't work out. Yeah, because the episode
yeah,
isn't like I felt like Anne's heart is like in the right place. You know what I mean? I feel like she's doing all the right things. Maybe like make a different food. They kind of fucked up like bringing a live Kraken into the thing. You know?
yeah, because honestly, Anne didn't even okay. Besides the cracking thing, it's like wow, it's like yeah, honestly, Anne didn't even do anything wrong in that episode. Like she literally stood up for a guy getting thoroughly insulted, and then helped revive his dying food business. Like she saved the
Yeah.
day, man. She saved
and
the day, and I think like oh sorry, go ahead, Tom.
oh, I was just gonna say like in the other episodes, it's like Anne kind of like pulls the other planners along, like she kind of has to drag them. Here in
Oh
Lily Pad
yeah,
Thai, she's
Yeah.
kind of like she kind of does the work on her own, and then that kind of
And
yeah,
then Stumpy
that's
jumps
what
in.
wins Stumpy over, and that's when he starts like getting motivated.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that because like this is like I feel like for Stumpy this like I love the fact that Stumpy gets a little bit less cynical throughout the episode too. He has like a little bit of hope, because Anne is really trying her damnness to make this work, and Stumpy's like, "Hold on, let me like help out a little bit," and then it becomes like this permanent change for Wartwood as a whole. Like Anne's whole like change of the restaurant like doesn't ever change, like even by season 3, by like when we get to
The
the
epilogue.
epilogue and stuff. Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. It's still that permanent part of Stumpy's life, and like what Anne added to Woodward that's gonna be there forever. Love that shit. Like so good.
yeah. Like honestly, yeah, really. Yeah, and, are we allowed to talk more about that? Because I know it's like technically the ending, but 3B. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's just like, yeah. I think that's just yeah, one of the things that just made the ending so effective. Because I know because I know like the whole message of like even so we're apart, our love is still going to be there. But I feel like that's said so many times, but it's like where is it, bro? Like, where is it physically? Like, can I see this love? Like, is it actually still here? But Amphibia is like, no, but Amphibia, it's like all round. It's all round. Like, it's just, it's so present. It's so cooked into like everything that's left over that you can just see it. Like, it's real nice. And I think like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think like, yeah, Lily Pad, it really is. Yeah, I mean, it really is. I don't love these episodes. All these episodes, they're just definitely one. I think it's definitely just motivated by the idea of like, um, Anne's background, coming into conflict with like Amphibia, right? Like all those episodes circle around that in some way. But I think like I don't know what makes episodes like these stand out. I think it's just it. How do I word this perfectly? I know I'm trying to think, but I think like yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's just. I mean, there's always. I think there's sort of. I don't know. I guess you can say they just went with something different here. Like it was just. I know
I
like
think
this is a oh go ahead.
I was gonna say like I think it's like I think compared to like the all the other stuff Anne brings in, Anne is trying to change Amphibia in a way that would like feel more not Amphibia, but like it feels like Anne is trying to bring things from the past to make them feel like home again instead of like embracing Amphibia for what it is. And you kind of see that through like and Anne is slowly starting to actually enjoy Amphibia as a place overall. You know what I mean? Like she's liking the food there. She's liking like the bug jerky or whatever, and like all the bug food Hop Hop is making, or just in general in the place. So like that's like a fun like showing you like Anne's actually getting used to it and really enjoying it. But in these first episodes, I think Anne is trying to like bring back the past. You know what I mean? She's trying to like change her time in Amphibia to be more similar to Earth, but in reality, like Amphibia is a very different place, so that can't really work. But like with Lily Pad Thai, I think it's a bit different because Anne is not trying to bring back the past. She is just like using her past in like a healthy way, if that makes sense. Like she's not trying to change Amphibia in a way that like or not she's not trying to change her time with the planters to be more similar to her time on Earth. She's more like using what's the word? Like it feels like she's not trying to just change Stumpy's restaurant for like a bad motivation or a selfish motivation, if that makes sense. It feels like it's coming out of like a good place of actively wanting to create good change for Stumpy. While before, like it felt like Anne wasn't really trying to like Anne was trying to bring back the past for time on Earth, but not in a way where she was like embracing Amphibia for what it is and actually starting to love it and enjoy it for what it is, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, no, that is like a very apt like breakdown of series, man. Yeah, and I think you're 100% right on that. Yeah, I think like yeah, I think honestly, I think that yeah, that's really what just makes this episode stand out compared to all the other ones. It's that surrounds it. Like it really is just her trying to like the only do something that's right. Like just do something that's right. And I think like I don't know, I was like it was weird. I was like trying to like I was trying to like look for some kind of like deeper meaning, but no, I think like, the writers. I was like trying to mine for something, but I think you found it, man. Just the idea of her finally, and because yeah, I think obviously yeah, like she brought in her culture here to help reinvent the restaurant, but like it wasn't. It was also just about helping someone in need. Like that was like another huge motivation for her.
Yeah, and I think like this is like really important too because Anne is starting to kind of learn again, like Amphibia. Blah, what's the word? Anne is trying to like is starting to love Amphibia for what it is and starting to actually enjoy her time in it more. That like I feel like this is a key thing too of like because this will play a part, in the finale when we get to like Anne chooses to save to sacrifice her life for Amphibia because we have this time throughout season one with with the planters and Stumpy and the other townies that we're gonna deal to a little later. That like and again, Anne is starting to love Amphibia for what it is. She's not trying to change Amphibia to kind of like keep herself in her comfort zone. You know what I mean? And again, that love Amphibia is going to play a big thing when she has to stop Sasha, or when she meets Marcy again, right? or again with during the sacrifice. So like this is a big thing. Like for Anne's whole arc. If this doesn't work, like if you don't know what's going on here, like you're gonna be fucked for like 2 and 3. like like honestly.
Yeah.
And I guess before we get into like toe tax prison break talk, Anne versus Wild, that's peak.
Amber is wild.
no,
Ooh.
no, we're not gonna talk about it too much because I've said enough about it. But like like everything comes back to Anne versus Wild. Like just rewatching this episode is just, like I know like rewatching 1A in general is like was super satisfying the first time. But like Anne versus Wild, that's like every little thing. It's and like the small details about like just that one final shot of like Hop Hop looking at the book, and it's like kind of like reusing the same kind of like shot from from Best Franz when he's like sleeping at his study. It's like it drives me nuts. Like Impact.
Yeah,
I don't know
man. I'm like,
if I explained it to you, but like the shot where like it shows Hop Hop's back in Best Franz where he's like where they find out he's sleeping.
With his eyes open.
Yeah, like before that, you see him sitting at his desk, and that same kind of shot is kind of recreated in at the end of Anne vs. Wild at night when he's looking through the
Shit,
books.
I didn't know
And I
that.
don't know if it was
That's
I
cool.
don't know if it was intentional or not, but the fact that it's there, it just drives me insane because it's like because
yeah.
oh like episode one, Hop Hop's just like sleeping during the day, and then Anne vs. Wild like it's like late at night, he's like up awake, like going through all of his books. It's just
Yeah. I think like one thing I will add with like Anne versus Wild is like I've seen like and honestly I kind of agree with this opinion too. Like when like on rewatch I was like, ah, that's bullshit. But like on first watch, I was kind of like I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, Anne just randomly like shows the music box to them. And I'm like, wait, no, that's cap. That's not true. Like it's clearly like set up to like Anne is getting more comfortable with the family than she feels like she really is a part of the family. So she trusts them about the music box. That's like that's clearly the case. But like I've seen like some takes where it's like, oh, she just randomly shows it, like one random episode. I'm like, nah, that's bullshit. So like, I don't know, because then we'll like eventually get where like Anne will trust Hop Hop enough and like Bizarre to like actually get trust the box, but then that causes all kinds of bull crap later, and then yada yada. But I don't know. Always find that interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I
especially
mean, I was
like so emotionally, thematically, narratively,
uh,
indubitably.
Indubitably.
God, this man. Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna agree with him. I don't know. It's always wild to me just looking back and just seeing how many. It's just weird because I guess it's like both Anne versus Wild and like what was it? How am I forgetting the episode name? And oh, Day of the Aquarium, which are just these like pivotal episodes to the series that just set up everything. Like it is always crazy for me to go back to Inver versus Wild and remember that Anne wasn't even going to stay with him for that long. Like the original plan was just to have the Valley file and then like kick her out. Like literally just kick her out. It just like
Oh
they were gonna
yeah.
wait. What? Yeah, she
I
wasn't gonna be with them. Like that was the
never thought
plan was
about that.
never. Yeah, the plan was never for her to become a family member. She was just living there. She was living there and taking doing some chores. Like she was supposed to be out in like 3 months, but like no. Instead, like No, instead, yeah, they developed this relationship that none of them ever expected, and like I don't know, it just blossomed into the rest of the series. And I think it's just like, and I think that amount of change, like I always, it's like this really was a whole journey or an adventure being mapped out because Jesus, man, it's just when I just open up a random season one episode, I'm thinking about how radically different things are by like 3A. I'm like, my God. Like this
Yeah.
show really changed as it went along. Like, and I guess it's I don't know. I don't know why in some ways it does feel shit. I guess that's something we can go on to when we get to the article, but I'll admit, I do feel like and sometimes I just wonder, is it why does it feel like those details are kind of easy to miss in season one? I guess it's because it's like I think overall, I don't know, maybe I think like just there's just like a greater episodic feel about it compared to the other seasons or something.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like I feel like the arguments for like, just there being consistent development, like they're easy to make, but it's like I don't know. At the same time, I feel like I think they're easier to make, but they're a little harder to bring up compared to season two and season three. And I think it's just, I mean, again, it's in the article. There's like a very specific thing that like, I feel like, you know what I'm talking about? 'Cause in fact, I don't know if you read the article, but like, it's in the article. There's like a very specific quote that like, I guess we'll get into later on, but like, I'll just come back to this point.
Okay.
I feel like I was wanted to add a little bit to it. I think one thing I will say, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people, including myself, when I first watched the season of like not catching like major character beats, is because, and this isn't actually a fault of the writing per se. I just feel like most shows would have like the plot move like a big direction when the characters change. And I think Amphibia still has that because the it's a character driven show. But
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like with season 1, like with season 2, when Anne grows as a person or not, well, yeah, when Anne grows as a person, the plot moves forward. If Marcy like right, cuz if we do the temples, right? If Marcy learns a lesson, we get the power to the gem, right? If Sasha learns something, we get the gem or whatever, right? We're moving forward, right? Like, and I feel like with season 1 to an extent, like Anne will grow as a person and develop, and her relationship with the planters will develop and change and be better. But like it doesn't instantly lead to like plot movement. You know what I mean? Eventually it will. It's sort of like because season 1 is kind of like saving up all this development more and more. It's kind of putting it into a canon, right? And then eventually it's gonna like shoot it out once we get to like the mid season or or the finale. And I think by seasons like 2 and 3, it doesn't there's still definitely a ton of setup and build up to these points, but like it's a little different, if that makes sense. Like I feel like season 1 is having the characters' relationships grow and develop through time, and that's progressing. The characters are moving forward and progressing, but like in terms of like movement directly in the major plot that will affect seasons like 2 and 3, we have to like kind of wait a little bit, if that makes sense. Even then, as I'm saying this, I'm like, that's not 100% true, but I feel like I'm like 80% right. So like, yeah, I think that's it. I think you're gonna
Yeah,
get a lot more of this stuff when you rewatch the show because you're like, oh shit, like this connects to that and this, and like this is where Anne learns this lesson. Amphibia is a show that just works when it's completed. Like
yeah,
just it's a complete show.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, that is such a yeah. No, I mean, I want to, yeah, I want to respond to those two things. Yeah, you just said because yeah, I think like yeah. I think like you're exactly right with how this series just like unfolds itself. Because I think like yeah, because I noticed, man. I noticed. I won't lie. Ever since Amphibia ended, I won't lie. While Amphibia was airing, I don't think I was watching a whole lot of different stuff. So I was very focused on Amphibia. But like, as soon as it ended, I was like, okay, I got a backlog of things I want to check out. I ended up checking out like a ton of slice of life anime and manga, and I kind of realized I was like, yeah, damn. I feel like there's like what I've noticed. I feel like with cartoons, there's like cartoons that have tried to capture that sort of slice of life energy, and then cartoons that have to that sort of rely more on comedy, and I think like the more comedy based ones, like they're just more focused on like hitting specific plot beats, so they don't explore more unique aspects of their series that they could. And I know I'm generalizing a lot, but I think like I guess I should. I guess this point would bring it back to like the whole audience thing. But like I don't know. I think like I don't know. I do think shit. Actually, this whole point's gonna take us far away. So I'm actually I'm gonna throw that away. I'm just gonna talk about shit, now forget what was that last part you said? What was that last part you said about Amphibia? It was about
Talk about how
the
like
like
everything
the
kind of builds up, like once you get to those like
oh
midpoints.
yeah, complete show. Yeah, it's a complete. Yeah, it has to be okay.
yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. No, I think you're so right because I feel like so much of like I feel like there's so many shows. I feel like I feel like with art in general, I feel like if you just don't get a sense of like what the creator is going for, you just aren't gonna enjoy it at all. And I feel like it's just so wild how Amphibia. It definitely is like it feels like it's even more so with Amphibia. Like if you just didn't have that whole picture in mind, you just aren't gonna feel comfortable at all with the choices that the show is making because you're expecting so
Yeah.
many different things happening and like yeah, I don't know. I feel like yeah, I feel like, I guess a part of that just comes from like Amphibia trying something different with its structure compared to like a lot of other shows, I guess. Like it's just yeah, I think it was definitely new to an American audience. Definitely.
I
Just
th-
with like oh go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of the things that makes Amphibia unique compared to a lot of American cartoons is that it knows what it wants to be at this first season. I think a lot of shows sometimes have this thing where like they they have a plan, but they don't really have a plan, if that makes sense. Like I feel like a lot of times when I'm watching like cartoons, mainly like American cartoons, where I'm like the first season, I'm like, okay, like the character like the crew is trying to figure out who these characters are and what the story's actually about, and then season 2 and 3 and blah 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 and onward is going to be where the story gets like more interesting. But weirdly enough, I wouldn't say that I've heard this statement said about Amphibia, but I don't agree with that because I think like with season 1 it is establishing the major like dynamics of the show that's going to play huge parts into 2 and 3. It's a complete show. It season 1 matters just as much as 2 and 3 do. You can't go like with Amphibia, oh like let's skip around and go to season
Yeah.
2. Like no, this isn't like most cartoons. Most cartoons, I argue you could actually do that. You could watch a few episodes in season 1, then go to 2 and 3 because season 1 is where they're trying to figure out what the show's actually about or like what they actually want to do with the show. And that's like no shame on other cartoons that do that, by the way, because like that's a fun thing of the creative process is trying to like figure out your
Yeah.
groove. You know what I mean? Like what makes these characters tick, what makes them work. That's like all shows have to have that point. But I think Amphibia, obviously it's still trying to figure itself out, but it knew what it wanted to be. It knew what the show was about and then completed it by the end. So like I think what's the word? I think it's just like Amphibia has like a different vibe compared to like I feel like most cartoons I know now today, which is interesting because like Amphibia is more episodic, but like it's more like complete. You know what I mean? It feels like a whole piece. Like you need every part of it to work. You know what I mean? With a lot of shows, again, trying to figure stuff out in the first season, then the rest of the seasons are like godlike. They're great. And like again, heard that thing for Amphibia too, but like I'm not sure I agree with that because of how much of Anne's arc, her mindset, and how her entire like ideology as a character is based on this season alone, and how we're gonna expand on these things. That like I think again, like if you're gonna, if you skip season 1, you are so fucked. You are fucked. Like, but like, yeah, it's Amphibia is very different compared to a lot of other American cartoons. It's definitely a whole piece once you get to beginning and end. So yeah,
Thank you, Impact. And like you mentioned the part about like how like season one, it's not like like the progression isn't as like clear as it is in season 2 and 3, but it's still there, and you kind
Yeah.
of don't realize that until like toe tax and reunion. And I don't want to talk too much about
Yeah.
reunion because like I was kind of thinking like how much should I save? Like I have a couple of other thoughts for reunion about like that point, and I'll try and remember that. Um, but in regards to toe tax and a little bit prison break, it's like that's when you can kind of see like at least on a not surface level, just like they're very direct about the things that are being set in motion with like the ending of like toe tax and like and like standing up to like the toads and
Yeah.
them like talking about like then at the very end of the episode they start talking about grime, and then we go to the next episode and it's like you get everything involving prison break, and then at the end of that episode they say Bog and the others are back from Toad Tower with the new from Frog Valley with news, and it's like you kind of see everything kind of like shifting into motion.
Yeah. Everything's coming together.
Yeah, and then like I think we didn't talk about the end of episode 1 where they show Sasha.
Oh yeah. Like
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like
yeah, yeah.
Sasha's like her own like beast. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm not gonna.
Like
Yeah.
she's her whole
Oh,
thing.
that's. I always. I'm not gonna. I always forget that she's there. Like I don't. I always. I don't know how I forgot she's in the first episode, but I don't know. But yeah,
like
I don't know. It's
but
shit.
it was a big deal at
But
the
as soon as
time
she. Yeah.
because like
I don't know.
all the
Yeah.
promotional material like you the intro shows the shot of like all three of the girls when the box opens, but it's like all the marketing was kind of focused on Anne, and actually I think Impact you probably had a more fresh like you went into Amphibia more fresh than probably myself or Nick did, because like I think like
Yeah.
Nick and I were kind of like we were kind of like eyeing the show for a while before it aired, and I don't know about I think you were too, Nick. Um, just like
I
you
think
were
I.
aware of like the promos and
Yeah.
like the backstory of like Matt Brawley was worked on Gravity Falls and now he's making a new show. It's coming out in a year,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
Like y'all have season 1 hype. Okay. Okay.
I mean, honestly, I feel like there wasn't that much hype. We were all just like, hey,
like
another
it was similar
cartoon.
to
It
you,
wasn't
Impact.
much
Like
of
you
it.
like it's
It's
like
like,
oh, okay,
yeah,
guy who worked on Gravity Falls making a new show, and it's like at the time it was what 2019. It was around a bit over 3 years after Gravity Falls ended and Starverse
yeah,
is wrapping up, and so it's like there was a lot of eyes on this show, like at least in the very beginning, just to see like what it was about. And
yeah. And I even, it was funny. I was like looking around. Like I even saw like even Alex Hirsch. He tweeted about the show too. He was like he even tweeted about Amphibia too. He was like, oh y'all got to check this out. He worked in Gravity Falls. Like so it was like I feel like everyone was like, all right, all right. They're like, oh yo, what is this? What is like show on frogs? Like
but then like
yeah.
it kind of like
And then it disappeared. It was like, hey, it was like the hype. It was like, where's the hype? It just went away. It was like, yeah, I swear, like I'm not even trying to exaggerate. I feel like it felt like barely anyone was watching the show during season one. Like, honest to God,
the bomb format did
oh
not help.
God.
Like
Yeah, it
I'm
did
trying not to get too
not
much
help.
into it, but it's like
It did not. Yeah,
like
you're like I've yeah, because I've talked about it here before, but like yeah, I remember I would try to. It's crazy how plentiful it is now, but yeah, back in the 2019, I'd try to find some fun. You know what I mean? I would try to find some funny clips of the show online. There is nothing. Like there is nothing. There is nothing. There is nothing. I don't know. It was barren, but what were we even talking? I don't know. Now I'm like I feel like we led away from what we were talking about.
oh like the
Like
completeness of like and how like the plot progression isn't as like in your
oh
face,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
like
yeah, no, yeah. Because I feel like.
I'm trying so hard not to talk about like reunion because I think that was like
yeah.
I don't want to get into it, but like
See,
regarding
I'm, I'm, I'm gonna throw away reunion. I'm gonna. I feel like I can go into it because I think it's just like
oh, I just wanted to save that
I'm
for
not.
like the next recording.
Oh no,
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
yeah, no. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into one B stuff. So I'm just talking about like stuff in. I'm gonna talk about stuff in general. I think it's. I don't know because I'm like when I try to think because shoot, but because I do feel like part of a lot of these takes just come from like not because I mean let's be honest because there's I know Tom you've talked about it here where it's like listen I'll just go into two-way real quick. It's very easy for people to get a sense of like plot progression because the planters are literally traveling by a flag in every episode. I mean
Yeah.
you're like you can't tell the plot's moving unless the characters are literally moving. That was a great quote. That's a great thumb quote. That was like a thumb quote. I remember that. That's still in my head. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's like it's I feel like part of the show being advertised with, like this quote unquote Gravity Falls alumni show. I feel like I guess looking back, it definitely wasn't helpful because it just isn't it doesn't have the same vibe and it isn't structured the same way either. Like you just so I mean, it's always like when I just hear this sort of like apathetic takes in a show, it definitely does feel like I mean I didn't mean to specifically be the one. It definitely just feels like someone was like expecting something entirely different. Right? Like we talked about that, where they're just like yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna go into anything specific, but I'm like,
Yeah,
but you guys know what I mean.
don't
Like
worry,
it's
Nick.
just
Next recording, I'm gonna bring in some Gravity Falls slander.
yeah.
No, I got you. I got you.
Nah.
I'll take the hit.
Nah.
I'll gladly take.
I'm not trying to. Nah, I'm not trying to slant. I don't want to slant. No, it's what I mean is just. I think it was. It's just. I feel like this is really one of the most slice of life cartoons out there because it really is trying to pull out the fun out of the mundanity of like these characters' lives. Like it isn't just here to be this laugh out loud cartoon. Like it has jokes and this is a comedy, but it's like you know what I mean? It just has a different focus. And I think like yeah, I'll also just say this. I think like I find it yeah, if we're gonna at Gravity Falls, I think that, yeah, just the overall lack of like this ongoing mystery plot. That was like a very easy thing to hook onto and keep track of, and just felt like it was actually building up and up and up. But I think yeah, with Amphibia, it's purely like no, like can you feel invested in this slice of life series? Can you just feel invested in these characters? And like honestly, yeah, to me, it's like perfectly fine if you can't, but it's like I just think we need more unique stuff like that coming out in American cartoons, just to challenge people. You know what I mean? Just to challenge what they want from a cartoon, because it really a lot of times it really just felt like they were judging it in one way, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair.
That never sounded solid to me.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, like no, nah, never mind. I was gonna go on a whole thing about that, like in the sense of like, you know what? I'll save that for like. I feel like I could talk about that more when we get to like. I think that problem became a little bit even more of a thing. I think it was a problem for season one, and I think it was also it's weird. This whole problem has been a thing for like two-thirds of the show, with one entry essentially. Like because season two is weird because it's the most traditional season of the show, like where I'm not saying it's the most basic. I'm just saying like I
Oh,
feel like it's the most
I've got thoughts about season
traditional.
two B as well.
Yeah, it's yeah, nah, straight up, like without
Like
going
it's
into it too
definitely the
much. Yeah,
most traditional way of moving the story forward because the characters are like moving to place
yeah,
to
literally.
place. Like even though like technically like I don't know. It's very obvious the characters are like moving forward in a direction. They always have a goal, which is weird because like season three also clearly has goals and an objective, and whatever, fuck it. I'm not gonna try to get into it, but
Yeah,
it's
nah, man.
yeah, that's it.
I
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of changing the topic, but I think 1A is the funniest. Uh, I think the first half of season 1 has like the best jokes, the best comedy in the show.
Really?
I think so. I
Huh,
think
I
I
got
think I think 3A comes like close, or it's a runner up, but I think 1A is like the funniest the show's been. And that's not like I still think Amphibia is like a funny show, like the jokes are great, but like
yeah.
I just think because season 1, just because the like the situation, like Anne's new and like everyone's like getting used to one another. I think like that's just they're more like the roasts are like so much like grander, like okay, like taking charge, like just this whole suspicious thing, and all this like
Yo,
a
you're
year
all
later, once like
suspicious.
Among Us becomes popular,
Yeah,
like
Among
that
Us.
just ages
Yeah.
like so well. And then like
Yeah.
what else about this? Like just and Theft Auto, where like hop up, I don't feel safe. Like
Oh yes, that's a
dating
classic. That's
season,
a
just
classic.
like the love doves and just the whole shipping thing with Sprig and Ivy, because so like it
Yeah,
was
all
so
that
topical.
wow.
It was so
Yeah.
topical coming off of like Starburst. But
Oh man. Yeah.
Contagion, that episode, like COVID hit next year, so then that got like it's just funny what happened to that episode getting taken off air. But
That's funny. Huh? Yeah, I did never thought about 1A being the funniest part. Now I gotta think like,
and
okay,
like
like
even with King, and
I
not King Crazy, I think
huh.
Flood, Sweat, and Tears, like Hop Up's like, oh, I could see just fine, and then he just like looks at Sprig for a second. It's like, wait, is that Sprig?
Right?
Who's like, who am I talking to, Sprig? um, and then
I
like
gotta think about that
the
though.
cave joke,
Like,
like Anne not wanting to go back to the cave, and
yeah.
I think
Yeah, I gotta think about like which part of the show is the funniest. It wasn't even in my mind. I was like, huh, because I think of Amphibia as like there are like every season is fucking hilarious. So I'm like, I have to think about like which part is my favorite, like in terms of like memorable jokes. 'Cause it's weird. I remember 3B being really funny, but I was like, I'm not sure if that's true now. Like I gotta think. I'm gonna keep that in mind throughout the retrospectives.
I mean, maybe because like 1A didn't hit me, like the emotions weren't as like it didn't hit me in the feels as much. So I remember the comedy more, which I don't deny, like that could be a
Hmm.
reason why, but like oh, because like the show was so like carefree and slice of life, then you just get like those really dark, morbid jokes.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like Wally was just scavenging the home of like a broken family. Oh, and then like Sprig getting casually engaged, like to
That's
Maddie.
funny. It's funny because like that joke then plays like into a whole plot line and cursed, and it's kind of crazy because Amphibious jokes are like I mentioned this before how it gives characterization, but also like jokes are usually a way to like set up plot points. Like Amphibia will make like a joke about something and then like to make you not think about it, and then like it'll bring that plot point back later. Kind of think of season one particularly because I know there are moments like that. Like the thing I think about the most is like Marcy at the gates, where like Anne's like Marcy's like, "Hey, do you remember this game?" And Anne's like, "Fuck no, I don't remember that." And then like that plays like a whole thing beginning of the end. So like, Amphibious comedy is always like a way to not only give characterization, it's a whole huge part of the storytelling too. So I don't know, like now I got to think about more about the comedy, like which one's my favorite. Got to keep that in my head. Yeah.
I just realized we kind of got into like we were about to start talking about Sasha, but then we didn't talk about her, which is fine. But
Oh yeah,
but
shoot. I don't know. I mean, Sasha, she was cool. She was cool.
like
I think
I don't
she was
want to turn
cool.
into like a character analysis, but it's just like Toe Tax was already like the longest episode of like the longest like A, segment B segment of the show until the beginning of the end. So then Prison Break was much shorter, and then
Yeah.
like and and they still like gave her like made a very like big impression. She made a very big impression on the like on the audience, and just
Yeah.
like she had
Hold on, we can.
no like yeah like I'm kind of like struggling to figure out what to say, but like she kind of like had like a presence once she showed up again. We actually got like formally introduced to her character, but then like Best Franz, when we just find out that the other girls are here, that was like a big shock for whoever was watching at the time. So like
Huh.
so like I guess
That's.
a room full of people, but
Yeah, my God. Yeah.
I never thought about that. Like, because you guys were talking about promo material and how it's only Anne and Spring. I I can't. Huh. I always like. I guess in a way, like I didn't, because I don't have time to like to consider like, oh, are the other girls here? Like, I don't know. Like, I just knew. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. Like, I never had a time to be like, wait, are Sasha and Marcy, are they whatever those girls are? Like, what are their names? Like the evil ones. There we go. Like, are they gonna be there? Like, I don't know. Oh, like,
but like
like that's interesting. Interesting.
yeah, for Best Franz, like Anne kind of like brings them up the end, like hoping they're okay, and then like that's when like I was first thinking like wait like oh yeah like the other two like even at the beginning of the episode like Anne's kind of like talking about their friendship, and like I didn't think about it too much at the time until like they show like the very end, and it's like oh, and then of course you get
Yeah,
like
Sasha is here.
you get like the what's his name, Valskaburn, the YouTuber.
Valscaburn?
The
Oh,
what?
Velisca?
How do you
Oh,
say it?
Velisca Bum?
Valiska
Velisca Bum?
Velisca Bun, like he makes a video saying like, "Oh, Amphibia has a plot."
Oh my God. Uh, I'm dying, dude.
I mean, but at the time, it's like, "Oh yeah, it's true. There's a plot now." Like,
Yeah.
because I thought differently about the
Yeah.
show then, but
Yeah, we were all like, yeah, honestly, yeah. We were all on that. Yeah. Yeah.
no, it
Yeah.
was very
I
hype,
guess we're
like
being
a hype
fair.
moment, like.
Yeah. Like my God. That's just still like Velisca Bum. Jeez. Just the Jesus, man. Like he finishes that episode, he's like, guys, Amphibia actually has a plot. It's just my God. Uh
No, but this was episode one though, so I think he was just gonna post a video about it.
I see. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. I just I wish I had something to say about Sasha, but I'm like she was effective. She did what she needed to do in 1 a.m. And I'll admit, like yeah, Prison Break it was a really solid introduction to her and Grime. I think like just like having her sort of feed off of that huge development for Anne, the planters in Warwood, right? I think it just definitely made her instantly like iconic to all the Amphibia fans who were watching at the time. And yeah, and any Amphibia fan hopping on afterwards was I'm about to make this terrible joke we have because a lot of Amphibia so so a lot of Amphibia fans it was like we're waiting for Sasha but they're like we're waiting for Sasha. They were pretty. I'm not even like. I'm not trying to say it was a good thing, but yeah, a lot of people, a lot of them were. My God, but yeah,
And to be fair, they didn't have to
it
wait
was.
long because of the bomb format. Like it was like two
Oh
weeks.
yeah, yeah. It was
Two
like 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh,
When did you get
yikes!
off? Yeah,
Yikes!
Yeah, because Toe
yeah.
Tax
All the
came out on
season.
like a Tuesday. Because I
Oh yeah,
remember like
yeah. It was like a.
I remember
Yeah.
watching it when it aired, and it's like, okay, we had the rest of the week, and then
Yeah, like a Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. Normally a reunion was like a Thursday morning, I'm pretty sure. It was like a Thursday morning, 9 a.m. It was like it was like raining at my place. I was like watching my little brother. We were drinking some like cocoa. We were like watching a reunion at 9 in the morning.
yeah,
Oh,
I wasn't working that summer, so I was okay. I don't want
yeah.
to get too much into reunion, but yeah, it's just like, yeah, it was certainly
Yeah, we were chilling. Like this is very like Jesus. Like I don't know, man.
yeah, they
It's
just
crazy
dropped
how
that on a Tuesday.
like
Like,
what yeah, like just what happens? It's like I swear, like they give the primetime treatment to all these shows now, but it's like, what I don't know what they're thinking. Oh, actually, no, we can get into that very soon if you want to.
about which part?
Actually, I no,
I
because
mean,
there's some
I was
gamer
gonna
article. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
just
Sorry
gonna
about
mention
that.
because like we're gonna drift off to Sasha for a sec, like because I wasn't gonna say too much. I was like Sasha because I feel like Sasha gets more interesting once we get to two, but like season one is still great because it's giving her like we know Anne has this really toxic viewpoint of herself and friendship, and then we meet this girl, and it's like, okay, like that's all coming together. You know what I mean? I think sometimes like not to critique fandom too much, but I do think sometimes like Sasha's influence on Anne is very important, right? It's a huge part of Anne's character. I do think sometimes like Sasha can be used as like not a scapegoat, but like what's the right word to put it? Like as like the reason for all of Anne's problems is Sasha, and it's like Amphibia was always more complicated than that. But anyway, that
Yeah,
might be more reunion talk. But like, I feel like I feel like I really like Prison Break a lot because I love Sasha and Grimes dynamic. It's so fun. Like you have a Grime who's like this complete asshole who's trying to like lead this like this group of toads and he has no clue what he's doing. He has no idea. He has no clue how to actually like motivate people or anything. Grime is trying to use like intimidation and violence in order to gain power, but that's not exactly working with the toads. And then you have Sasha who's like this dark like flip side of Grime where like Sasha won't use physical violence, but she'll use emotional manipulation and getting to know who the people are and you see their strengths, which isn't necessarily like a bad thing. By the way, like it's funny the way the show portrays it because it's like they always have like this ominous music and Sasha all she's saying is like, yo, like if you're nice to people they'll listen to you. Like that's pretty much what she says, essentially. Like, but I get why it has that because Sasha's motivations of doing it are bad, right? She's trying to find strengths in others in order to use them for her own gain, right? It's the whole idea. But like, but like Sasha's advice to Grime isn't bad. You know what I mean? Like be nice to people and they'll listen. Like yeah, like and it works. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I really love their dynamic where they're kind of feeding off each other in this toxic way, and you see Grime like Grime is like, oh no, you are way too manipulative. Be by yourself. You are a threat. Like,
But
but again, like Grime. Oh, dumb, you go, you
no,
go.
no, continue your point. Continue your point.
Oh, I was gonna say like, but then Grime's like, well, I can't really stop you though. But like, Grime isn't necessarily like I guess you could say he is manipulating Sasha, but like Sasha knows this bullshit. You know what I mean? They know each other's bullshit, which is fun because like Sasha gets an equal finally. She gets someone who's not lower than her, like Anne or Marcy. She has someone who like knows her strengths and knows her bullshit. And Grime
yeah,
and Sasha can notice it with Grime, and it's so good. Prison Break is a banger.
yeah.
It's a great episode. It has a really good dynamic with Sasha and Grime. It's gonna be explored more in season two. So like, yeah, it's good shit.
But I like how in this season, not season, this episode, like like you said, Impact. It's like Grime recognizes Sasha's like skill.
Yeah,
He's not letting her manipulate him, and he won't let her manipulate him. Like it's like they both know each other. Like they both understand each
Yeah.
other, and it's like they're like, okay, we can't like go against each other, so it's better we just team up.
Yeah. Because they influence each other and like because it's interesting because they and Sasha they influence each other in a good way and in a bad way. In the sense of like Sasha Sasha gets an equal. She gets someone who knows her bullcrap and can call her out on it. And this plays a big thing because like Grimes' relationship with Sasha is gonna like we're gonna have a lot of those moments, right? Toad catcher, turning point, where Grimes is gonna be like, "Hey, you got to get your shit together, girl." Like, you know what I mean? Like, because again, she knows.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
he knows her bullshit, but like I don't know. I find that interesting that Sasha gets a equal dynamic. So like, but again, like Grime will also enforce her controlling habits and her want for power and scheming. But again, we'll still call her out when she's doing something that is not necessarily wrong, but like when something is up with her. I love that dynamic. It's very like unique, and I feel like sometimes as a fandom, like we I'm not sure if this is 100% true, so like take this with a grain of salt. But like I do feel like to a certain point, Sasha and Grime is like simplified, but it's actually really complicated. Like it's a complicated relationship, and I like that a lot. That like season one establishes that really well of like their contrast between each other, but also they know each other. They're part of like they're two sides to the same coin. You know what I mean? It's great.
yeah. Oh man, yeah. Yeah, again, it's just like another example of a relationship in Amphibia. Like it starts so radically different from how it ends. Because yeah, I think like just like a huge thing that just motivates this series is just like I don't know, just these core relationships. It's just yeah, these characters like they just form these relationships out of like what is yeah out of convenience, and then they get something out of them more than they ever expected. Yeah, I think that, yeah, with Sasha and Crime, it was just like yeah, just pure mutual respect for each other. I think yeah,
Yeah,
they also just found each other like amusing in some way. Just like yeah, I don't think they ever met one and they never met anyone like the both of them. Like Grime never met like a Grime never met someone uh, who was just so into being a bitch. Like, if I'm being honest, like Grimes was just so into. He was like, my God. He was like, my God. And like, yeah, yeah. And I think with Grime, like, yeah, think of Grime. Like, Grime was just. Yeah. Obviously, that Grime gave her a place to stay and blah 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 blah. But God, Grime was just like, I don't know. He was just hilarious. I think he was just kind of amusing to her, just like this old grump that she can like this old grump that like that she can like sort of toy with. Like it was just I don't know, man. Yeah, it was just a really strong dynamic that just transformed into something more when they just when they were both desperate and had like no one else. Like it's just I don't know. I think that's just like a really great spirit of the series. I was like, I'm not gonna. I only made that connection just like right now. Just that idea of like, see, I don't know. You have like Marcy and Andreas and the Planters. Just these like, you can say like these are like the three core relationships of this series, and just I don't know, man. Like I think that's just wonderful. Just how they all go
yeah,
in, they don't know what the hell they're gonna get out of it, and then it just transforms them for life. Like it just, yeah, wonderful.
And I think
yeah,
I think Sasha and Grime feel more like equals than Sprig and Anne do like
yeah,
because even though Anne and Sprig kind of see each other as equals, like in 1A, Anne kind of like drags Sprig
Yeah,
into stuff at this point. So I don't think Anne and Sprig hadn't reached the same kind of like equal footing that Sasha and Grime have at this point. And when they do, it's kind of not the same because like Anne's always gonna be kind of like the older sister to Sprig. And then like
yeah,
Sprig is always gonna be like the like the like Sprig will see always see Anne as the older sister, and Anne will always kind of see Sprig as kind of like her like best friend, like at least during the show. And it just
yeah.
the bestest friend, and what was the direct quote? She said like, "He's my best friend in this world or any other,"
Any other
right? Like,
world.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think
yeah, my,
like I feel like with it's interesting because like fandom content usually betrays I'm generalizing by the way, like I don't think the whole fandom thinks this. But I did notice that like you had like like dad Grime and like daughter Sasha, you know what I mean? Like that
yeah,
was always really funny because
yeah,
like I think it makes sense for the dinner, but like I always felt like I was like, no, they definitely feel like Sasha and Grime are partners in crime. They're not like father
yeah,
daughter. Like
yeah.
that's not the vibe I got. In the dinner, like yeah, that I could get that because Grime's like, hey, like don't act up during dinner, and Sasha's like, okay, fine, and, you know. And then she starts acting up, you know, but like, so, but like, yeah, I always got the vibe. Sasha and Grime when they're first introduced, they are partners in crime. You know what I mean? In like the worst and best way possible. So yeah.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I feel like for me the closest I ever got, like if they ever went beyond just being partners of crime, I always just saw him as like her fun uncle. Like that's like the most
That's
familial
fair.
area I'll take it personally, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I do find that art cute, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like in series, it's like, yeah, it's not like you said, like partners of crime or just like a fun uncle who lets her do all the dangerous shit. Because I mean, obviously, he's not there to parent her. He's just there to have fun. Like after a certain point, he's just there for like the glory. He's just there for the glory.
Yeah.
And I think we can kind of wrap up our 1A retrospective with like a bit more toe tax talk. Like I feel like we kind of like talked about toe tax and like Anne, how Anne kind of evolved throughout this first half. Like, but the episode itself, it's like it is kind of like just like a test for her, and like with the town earning the town's respect and that going back to her own self worth.
Yeah.
It's very like clear cut,
Because
but
I
it's
think like
very
to a
it's well
certain
earned.
degree, like
Oh, go ahead, Impact.
oh yeah. Like actually you were gonna pretty much say what I was gonna say. Because I think like this again, like all this stuff has been building up to toe tax. And I like how like I guess I'm drifting a little bit from Anne, but like I like how like this is our first real characterization of the toads, right? Like we don't where we get a really good idea of like how they work as being like tax collectors and enforcers of the status quo. And this is a big thing because like again like each of the well not even again but like each of the species like represent the girls in like kind of different ways in the sense of like Anne believes that she's like the bottom of the barrel in the relationship, right? She believes that she's like the lowest in the hierarchy. You know what I mean? And so that's like reflected through her being with the frogs, right? They're literally the bottom of society. But then, like, as we get to know the frogs and get to know Anne, we realize, hold on, wait a minute. They are a lot more capable than we think they are. And the toads always underestimate them, right? Think of themselves as bigger than them, which, you know, Sasha's relationship with Anne, like, and the fact that like the toads are the keepers of the status quo. Sasha, that's exactly Sasha's role, right? She uses power to stop Anne from like getting out of line, to stop her from like moving moving forward, if that makes sense. She keeps dragging her down, right? Stops her from progressing. And then like I won't go with Marcy in the newts, but there's something really cool with that too. But I think we'll get to that when we get to season 2. But like I love that like once we know about Bog and like the Toads, we're also kind of learning a little bit more about Sasha, if that makes sense, in the sense of like her role in the friendship and how it's reflected through like this bigger scale conflict of all three of the species. And eventually, once we get to season 3, this dynamic is going to be less explored with the species, but more like with Andreas in the core and that whole societal thing. And then, yeah, I don't know. I always really liked how the Toads are introduced here. It's quick, it's simple, but Bog gives us this good idea of what they're about. and we also get this idea of what Anne used to be before Amphibia, but now she's listening to her heart a bit more and realizing that like, is this really who I want to be? Do I want to follow these toads? These guys seem like kind of assholes, but I do want respect. But then ultimately she chooses to follow her heart and trust herself. So I don't know. Again, I really love how the toads are introduced here.
Yeah, you summed up toe tax very well, Impact. Like, especially the stuff about like the introduction of the toads. Like, once we get into like season 2, like, we'll revisit that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of much to talk about for toe tax that hasn't been already said. It's just
Yeah.
really great episode and
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
because
it's a
like
good
anything
episode.
else I want to talk about Anne is probably gonna go into like season into reunion stuff, which I want to save. So I think we can wrap up 1A retrospective. I guess starting with Impact. Any final thoughts?
I think ultimately 1A like is like a really fun introduction to Anne and the Planters as characters in themselves. I really love what it does, how well it characterizes Anne in a way that like doesn't necessarily have to be like as direct like with Sasha and Marcy, if that makes sense. Like obviously Best Franz is like clearly like okay, like we get her low self-worth, but you're getting like more like ideas of what makes Anne tick or how like she thinks of herself throughout the season. And I think 1A, her relationship with the Planters really giving you that idea of who she was and who her influences were. You know what I mean? So like this is like a essential part of Anne's arc and her relationship with the Planters. That like if you don't, if you don't watch this part, well, not if you don't watch this part, but like you need this part. This is like an essential key point in the show. It's gonna play a huge part once we get to like other seasons. So really love 1A. I thought it was really fun.
All right, thank you, Impact. Nick, any final thoughts on season 1A?
Yeah, honestly, pretty much any positive things said about the season, I agree with. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's a really strong opener to the series that just yeah, not only like yeah, narratively sets up everything, but just like what this show wants to focus on. It's just so nice to go back and just see how that was present since day one.
All right, thank you, Nick. And yeah, I think this 1A was something like I enjoyed, and then once I rewatched it, every time like we got more episodes later on, it's like it got better over time. And just this introduction of like Anne and like and the planners and just like getting to see them like I know this has been said a lot, but just like seeing them in these like low stakes settings makes it way more like I'm way more emotionally invested in them once like things get more intense. And even these episodes, like they're getting like chased and eaten and like attacked by like whatever like wildlife's around, but and we kind of know like the monster of the week stuff. It's like they'll get through it, but then later on, once they leave the valley, and that's I'm already like invested in this like in this team, in this family, and I think just them taking the time to like explore like Anne's dynamic with each and every one of them, and then especially them together, like sells the like it kind of like becomes a lot more like valuable once we find out what happens to them at the end. So
100% agree.
yeah, I think that kind of covers our season 1A retrospective, and like Impact mentioned, like this like talking about it now, it's like I agree that like we could have talked about it the season like as a whole. Like at some points it would have been a lot easier just to talk about reunion whatever, but like, and I kind of had to like force myself to like focus on this half, and I don't think we'll have that issue with season 2 and 3, but it does force us to kind of like consider how season 1, how much of a like complete package it was. Um,
I I do think like when I'm thinking about it now, I do think 1B feels like, I think we talked about it a little bit, but like 1B does feel different though. Like, and I'll say my opinions on that, but like I do think when I think about it now, 1B is definitely not a different beast, but like I do feel like it's a different level of quality than 1A.
yeah.
So, you know.
No, I'm joking.
we'll
I'm
get
joking.
to.
I'm joking. Yeah, no,
I feel like
we'll get to
I feel
that.
like one A is like the most like, I don't want to say innocent. Like I don't want to say
It has no
innocent
duds.
or simple. Like it's like the least complicated half season for me.
That's
Okay.
fair.
Like I still love it. It just it feels like my thoughts on it feel a lot more like straightforward.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you on that.
But yeah, the next few recordings are gonna be a lot of fun. And like we mentioned earlier, like we had that article with Matt from the Gamer. Um, this was just talking about like a year since the finale, Marcy's journal, and the future of like Amphibia content. And I know like there's a lot going on in that article. I don't know how much time we can focus on all of it. Um, I'm sure once we go through like the rest of these retrospectives, like some of the stuff here in this article will kind of get brought up again, and I'll try my best to like kind of like to bring, because I feel like we could talk about this article like for like minimum an hour, but
Okay.
kind of like talking about the ending and like I think the part I want to focus on is there is a portion about season 1, and it was talking about how like I'm looking for the exact, I don't want to like misinterpret this, like okay, so the series wasn't really like any continuity that they were trying to get into season 1 was kind of like had to be fought for, and like Matt described it as like the series was like prohibited from having continuity in its first season, and like Prison Break was upsetting some executives because like it didn't follow the same like slice of life pattern as the episodes before it, and even a little bit
Huh.
of serialized storytelling would result in like was kind of like looked down on, and was told that it would cost them viewers, and that's just like
That's that's funny looking at it now.
Yeah.
That's such a strange mindset because I feel like the serialization is what made the show popular to begin with. And it's weird because like, because you got to think about 2 and 3 too, because like with 3, like it's interesting because like there's been like talks in the fandom like, like did Disney do something with the season, but whatever, blah blah blah. But like it's interesting because season 3 is the most serialized part of the show. Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
I would consider
I'm
season
ready.
3.
Yeah, it has the most connectivity between events in the story. Like you can't like in 3A alone, you can't really change the order of an episode. It's really hard. You have to rewrite the episode full stop. Like you can't like swap them around. I guess you could say Turning Point and Olivia and Yunan, but like even that naturally, no, you can't do that either
No,
because yeah, like
I think only
you
Mr. X
can't
and
really
Spider
change
Sprig,
it.
not Spider Sprig, Sprig's birthday and Mr. X, you could switch that around. That's the only thing I could see.
Yeah, yeah. Even then, like, wait, aren't those like in the same like half
Yeah.
hour, Mr. X? Yeah, you you really can't do it. Like you kind of can. Like you can swap like 2 segments around, but like, but they're already connected, so like it doesn't really matter. So like it yeah, like it's so weird to think about how season 3 was able to get away with so much serialization, but season 1 the executive was like, ah, hell no, gotta keep this episodic, that's it. But then Matt was like, shut up, and then did seasons 2 and 3. So
Yeah, honestly, yeah, you
it's
kind of have to wonder
interesting.
how he, yeah, you have to wonder how he managed to do it. I guess it's like I guess it's because he built like a good relationship with them after season one, and like I guess it's I guess that had to be a so I mean, yeah, I think it really is like a gradual thing with how serialized Amphibia gets. Like it definitely is a build up. Because I think like yeah, honestly, yeah, just looking, yeah, just thinking about the series, yeah, it definitely is a build up, and I think like yeah, 3A was sort of like that. Dang it, we're supposed to be talking about season one now.
Yeah.
I was thinking don't
Like
yeah,
in regards to season 1,
but
it's like they saved all of like the callbacks for season 3. Like
honestly,
all the
Yeah,
continuity for
yeah,
season 3 where it's like, "Oh, remember all this stuff from season 1?
yeah,
Here you go."
yeah.
yeah.
Like
That's
Like
crazy to think
were
about.
they just not allowed to like I mean, I guess they did reference some things in past episodes, but it's like, dang, just like finger wagging, saying this would be bad for our viewership, but it's like, are we talking about just like
Huh.
kids? Like who are we talking about? Like who are we
Yeah,
talking about when
like
we say this?
I, I I think Disney was like, ah, we need episodic shows or else. I don't know why, but you know, they want, I guess. And I feel like it's weird because I feel like season 1 has like solid continuity too, just like in a different way from the other seasons.
Yeah,
I feel like even like I feel like 1B even has this like a little more than even 1A. I gotta think about that. Yeah, but like I don't know. There's still like solid continuity going on. Maybe like the executives were like dumb and they didn't notice it. Some parts, like I don't know, because that's so weird. I'm wondering what the relationship was with like like of the executives from like 2 and 3. I'm like really curious. I want to know the whole thing. Like I want the
yeah,
meat and
the whole story.
potatoes. You know,
Hmm.
like. But I don't know. That's interesting. It's very interesting.
and like does this it's like being like a proud like season 1 defender. It's like how do I feel about this?
Yeah, yeah, but it feels like, damn it feels like some people have ammo now some people are like, okay, well this explains this. Now it feels like the haters got ammo. It's like shut up. No, you don't. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I won't lie. I don't know. Like, I don't know how this shakes things up. Like, it's like because I feel like it was never that big of a problem. Like, it never
Yeah. Like I don't
like.
think. Oh, you go, Nick.
No, I was just gonna say like I feel like yeah, these things are still built up well. Like a lot of it's
Yeah.
just I don't know. The character arcs worked. Um, like building up Grime and Sasha's like this external conflict, it worked too. So it's
Yeah. Like I didn't feel like I'm gonna like I don't know like what's the word like I don't feel like Matt was like he was probably limited, yes, but like I don't get the vibe that like the show missed like major plot threads and stuff like that. I don't get that vibe. Like, like if that makes sense. Like, I don't feel like we like a whole plot line was removed of the show because of executives. If that makes sense, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, I don't get that vibe. I feel like maybe some stuff was. But I don't think like Matt was like, we're gonna have more Sasha episodes, and then the executives were like, no, like you can't have continuity. Grr. Like I don't get that vibe. You know what I mean? I see it as more like executives probably were more like, all right, we're gonna make Amphibia an episodic show. And Matt was like, okay, I guess. And season 2 was like, but can we like get a little bit more continuity? Executives are like, okay, fine, I guess. And season 3 was like, then they just like go whole hog. It like kind of went to super serialized by that point. So I don't know. Like I don't feel like we lost a lot. I don't think we're giving ammo to the haters. Like, I'll be honest, like I don't feel like a lot of like what's the word? Like there's a lot of ammo for Amphibia outside of like nah, there's not really a lot. Like to be frank. Like I guess there is, but it's like it's shit ammo, you know. But anyways, whatever. That was
Nah.
mean. That was mean. That was mean. Like I mean more like I mean more like because I don't
So
think that's full.
when
I
you
just think more like it's not a ton of ammo.
when you say shit ammo, do you mean the kind of the kind of ammo that Sprig used on Sasha Reunion?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. It's
nah,
not.
but
It's ammo, but it's not like great ammo. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah. And
no, but like
like
I
I don't know. Nick, you can go.
yeah, I was just gonna say like no, yeah, I totally agree with you on like yeah, yeah, I won't yeah, the quote just felt so surprising because it never felt like Amphibia was missing anything huge. Like it never felt like yeah, because I don't know, because it felt like Matt, he talked about the story so confidently that I was like that I felt like a lot of the decisions he wanted to make of the series was there. A lot of like the plans he had for it were there. So it was like I don't know, to find this out about season one, I was like, really? Because even with
Yeah.
Sasha, yeah. It's not like the man was like trying to make more Sasha episodes. No, like I remember in a season 3 article, he laughed about how he'll give her an episode and then make her disappear for like the rest of the
Dip.
season. Like he
Yeah.
laughed about that. He laughed about that. So it's like I don't know. Like you have to wonder. Like I guess what kind of. Oh, so yeah, he even talked about in season one. Like it was just about yeah, getting the audience, to know these characters, to be invested in them. Like he was fine with keeping the setting in like Wartwood and just exploring it as a location. Like it's I don't know. You just have to wonder like
he,
how I don't know how much is more serialization would change or anything. Like I don't know.
I don't know either.
he did mention his like he's always mentioned in like a lot of interviews how it's like the 3 act structure, which he didn't want to describe it as seasons because it's probably like I know especially around season 3 it's like he was careful about seeing 3 season structure. He was saying like 3 part because I feel like that's part of like he can't tell people Amphibia's ending until a certain
Oh
point,
yeah.
but like it feels like he always had like his 3 season plan, and he was just making sure like I think he did mention he had like a broad idea about each about certain stuff, and it's like him kind of like making sure like he does everything he can to get that aspect of his like 3 part story like told, and then like maybe he wanted to do more continuity stuff, more like I don't know, like it's just like season 1 he knew like the general idea of what he wanted, and it's like he was willing to kind of like play he was willing to like satisfy like executives who kind of like wanted this certain thing out of Amphibia season 1 because he knew like as long as
He
he
was
got
willing to
like
play Disney's game.
yeah he had to like he was like he had to I don't want to say play the game, it's just like it's like probably in his position he kind of like want to prioritize like the main like meat of season 1, and like as long as he had that he could kind of like sneak whatever else he wanted in.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of like I guess as like a storyteller you kind of have to like make those like those calls like you have to pick those battles I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, I just want to clarify my point about like the shit ammo thing. Where is that? No, I don't mean like that there aren't legit criticisms for Amphibia, by the way.
Oh,
Like, I'm not saying that. I was just
Yeah.
saying like I was just saying that like I don't feel like it's a lot of good ammo, like because oh like okay, executives were like a part of the show. Like, yeah, that's like every show ever. Like, like you know what I mean? Like I still think there are legit criticisms of the show. It's just that like I feel like that kind of ammo for season 1 isn't like that strong. There we go.
okay. And when I was talking about like Sprig's shit ammo, um, wait, Impact, were you there for the reunion recording?
Yeah, it was. It was the whole crowded thing. It was like how many people we had for reunion? Like it was
Oh
mad.
yeah, okay, because yeah, I remember Sprig threw that mud ball at Sasha. It was like,
Like where did you get that from? Like,
sorry, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, like the criticisms of season one, it's like it kind of like, especially 1A, it's like 3A, like 3A and 1A kind of like hold each other up, and like I feel like one without the other would feel kind of like wouldn't be as satisfying in retrospect.
you mean like they're connected together, like
Yeah,
narrative wise?
like 3A wouldn't have been as strong without 1A, and 1A wouldn't have been looked back as fondly on. Like we wouldn't look back
Yeah.
like
The cousin Stanley scene, you know what I mean? That.
like actually I think 1A could still hold up without 3A. It's just that with 3A it makes like the small things in 1A more like
Substantial.
more natural, like natural and like more like satisfying.
Yeah.
Like Lily Pad Thai. It's like, oh, we find out Anne's parents had like like a Thai restaurant, and then
Hmm.
looking back
Yeah.
at that, it's like, oh, like you can when you see what Anne's parents are like, you can kind of see why Anne got so offended when Duckweed like kind of trash talked them,
Yeah.
and like I guess the main exciting thing is that we might get more Amphibia books. Like Matt,
Yeah, like
I feel like if Matt said he can't officially confirm, but the fact he's saying it kind of makes me feel like
Yeah.
it's confirmed.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's
we
coming.
don't
It's
we
coming.
don't know exactly what it is. I mean, personally, I'm hoping for like more ancient utopia shit, man. I want to see more core stuff. I want to see more barrel. I don't know if I want to see more leaf. I mean, she's gonna be like farming for like her whole life. I don't
Damn.
know.
Ooh.
I
Ooh.
mean, well,
Damn.
hold on. We can have her time on
Ooh.
Earth. Maybe that'd
I
be
mean,
cool.
okay,
And
keep in mind,
Andrea's
Leaf
like,
is like a founding member of Wartwood.
that's
Yeah.
true. Oh
There could be
shit,
some
that's a
stuff.
good point.
Yeah.
Like she's not
That's
the
a good
town
point.
founder, but like she's like one of the first few people that like settled there. So it's like you could do a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think you can even have like, because remember, like Leaf kind of shows up to Amphibia, like we don't know exactly when, but like she shows up in hiding, right? So it's like, in Utopia is like falling apart. It's getting like all fucked up. So like it'd be interesting to see like not only Leaf like
The state of the world.
being, yeah, the state of the world, and Leaf like not making Warwood, but like being one of the leading founders of that place in the first place. So actually, shit, actually, this sounds interesting. Never mind. Okay, that actually
Let's
sounds really fun.
go.
And the fact that he said like he's describing like plural books, like more books are coming and they're really inciting. It's like there's more than one
Mm,
coming. Like
mm. Yeah, like that's.
he
I don't
doesn't
know what
describe
exactly
it.
what he means, but
he doesn't describe it as like a single project. It's like multiple
Yeah,
things.
multiple books. Hmm.
Like I hope it's not
What would
like
you guys like? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, Impact. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna ask, what do you guys want to see out of them? I'm curious. Like,
I'm definitely like a big art book supporter. Oh yeah, sure. Are you talking about like
just like anything. Like, I know like
oh
art book is like the easy one, but like, do you guys
yeah.
like have any like stories specifically you guys would want to see? Like, like,
Honestly, I won't lie. I'm like I'm kind of chilling, but I'm chilling. We chilling, but I don't let
um,
me think.
like
I think maybe
I want to see future stuff with the planners or past stuff, like Core and the King era stuff.
yeah,
I feel like if we did get a story of just like and the planters chilling, like that'd be fun, but like we've already gotten so much of that, like it would be
yeah,
it would be kind of safe, which I don't mind because I just more and the planter shenanigans. It's like okay, there's still like there's still more, but I kind of would just be like,
that would cause a riot, like a phantom riot, if that happened. But yeah,
like it'd be kind of
I
it
know.
could
safe. It'd be
though.
kind of
Like,
safe if we just got a bunch of like and the planter stuff, like because like I would still enjoy it, but like getting something like with Leaf, like getting something
or barrel.
like pre-series and post-series would like would be feel a lot more like interesting. And then like an art book would kind of just be a lot more would be kind of great on the fandom side of just like people kind of like
Yeah,
going wild with the, like whatever like cut designs there were. But I feel like it'd mostly revolve around like Anne, Marcy, and Sasha, like whatever other designs they came up with.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think like it's interesting because like I'm not really. What's the word like? What was I gonna say? Oh, here we go. So like I think like with I know Matt has kind of discussed not interest, but like had the idea, not the idea, but I think he talked about it like in a book signing where like they could go, he could go into like a comic about like the core and its creation and like why did it want Marcy as a host specifically? Because like yeah, the show tells us, but like what is its motivation of like wanting eternal life and blah 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 all that jazz, which I feel like is in the show, but it's not going into full detail as much as like Andreas, because Andreas gets a whole backstory episode, and then like the core is just adding to Andreas's narrative. You know what I mean? So like it'd be interesting to get something on like the core's creation or like something like that. So, but like it's weird. I don't really want anything out of the girls. Like to be honest, like I'm not.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't. Yeah, like it's weird because like the girls are like my favorite part of the show, but like I'm like I don't really like I don't really need anything out of them because like they're living regular lives, you know what I mean, and like that probably isn't as well. Hold on, now their dynamic is interesting enough to be explored. It's just that like I feel like fandom already holds that down for me. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't need more details on it. Yeah.
The thing
Yeah,
I'm interested
we're
about,
chilling.
like the thing.
Thumb, you can go.
Okay, thank you. Like the thing I'm interested about, like something involving like the core, is just like how would you write a story about like the core that would like give its like backstory justice, but without like doing like giving making a story so like horrific that it's kind of like outside of the show's tone, which
Oh, oh, I know what you mean because like
They
the I feel like to be fair, like Olivia and Yunan
yeah,
like
that's what I was
is
gonna say. Like they've done it before.
like
Like
yeah, because that episode is fucking crazy. You know what I mean? So like I feel like you could do it, but like Shit, because I guess we're gonna have to get to the point where we're talking about the newts using other like aliens and species and experimenting on them to find ways to find immortality. And that's because in the show it's a lot of subtext, if that makes, well, not really, but like, well, kind of like we see the aftermath of these things, like the Mossman's healing like pod thing, right?
Yeah.
Or like the shadowfish were used for technology of the core, right? But we don't see like how specifically the core does that. So it's like, and we like the only time we get to see that process is, well, the possession, you know what I mean? And that's like some crazy shit. So like, I don't know, it's a good question. I think maybe like you'd have to kind of get into the mindset of the core and less about the process of it, you know what I mean? Like you hint at the core or the newts like performing experiments and things like that, but we're kind of getting like the ideology of the core a bit more. We're getting the idea of like all like the stuff that was kind of in the show, but it was more shown than told, which is like usually in the storytelling that's like the point, but more like I think sometimes like in the show like there isn't a way to connect those dots sometimes with like the fact that the core only has medical technology in the basement, the fact that it has like all those illusions around. What does that mean? Like you can kind of like assume that the core is trying to find ways to maintain life in some other fashion, but like it's not directly told to you. So I think it may be in a way of like kind of just getting the core's mindset and then kind of getting like the aftermath of those events could work better, if that makes sense. Like hopefully I'm not rambling, but, like,
No, I get it. And
yeah.
like in book
Okay.
form, you can kind of do. I think you can kind of get away with more kind of like disturbing, like descript.
Oh
Like you
yeah.
can like because the details you have to provide, and even just like if this were like to be like a graphic novel or something, it's like you remember like the After the Rain like still images about what happened to Sprig and Polly's parents. It's like
Oh,
imagine something like that for like the core and like for the core.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and then even something like if it was like a novel, like you would have to like go into detail. It's like, hmm.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, that the core's backstory would be like too graphic for the show. I guess because like again the core is like the most violent character in the show. At least yeah, I think that's a fair thing
Yeah,
because like obviously you get Olivia and Unit, but then you get All In and where like
Grimes' arm.
Sasha and Grime are like, yeah, they are getting the shit kicked out of them in that fight, like that. It's I
hmm.
again I didn't think about the core as like too violent for the show. Like to go into detail about. That's a good point.
But I guess Nick, did you have any other thoughts on like the book stuff like before we wrap up?
Honestly, I mean, I have no clue what a book can look like for this series because it just feels like, yeah, I don't know, feels like I agree. Like I feel like the girls, they're just, it's like they're chilling, man. They're chilling, they're fine. Um, I guess it's just, I guess I don't know. I'm not trying to be like that guy who's like, where's my source of conflict, but it just feels like what could a graphic now? I feel like I'm gonna have to go through your guys' ideas. Just like giving us something. I don't know. Maybe just giving us more history on the specific things, like the core. Like yeah, it could be pretty cool to get like a whole history thing on like. I know there's like quote unquote lore books for like other stuff. Yeah, it could be cool getting explanations on the temples, the box, the core. Like yeah, that could be cool. Like call it the history of Amphibia. Just like a sort of like. Oh, actually, shit. Now that it's not, I don't know. Actually now I'm like, whoa, actually, because shit, I don't know. Imagine it makes it all the way to Anne or something. I don't know, like just like a like just this lore book that like has a chronological history of like Amphibia, like the whole world, and like they
Yeah.
Because I don't know. What I like. My mind always drifts back to that one promo Matt made where it's like what he said, like every story has its beginning and end, you know what I mean? And it was like showing, it was like splicing Andreas and Anne's scenes together, and it was just this idea that Anne's like this final chapter to this conflict that's raged for like thousands of years. Like I love that. I just love that idea of like that a protagonist, that they're at the center of something like that, and like to have Anne be at the center of something like that this whole time. Like I don't know. That would be awesome, honestly, just to like give us this lore book that just places her on the same level of importance as like everything else going on. So I don't know. I think that could be a cool idea. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Nick. And I think this is a good time to kind of like wrap up tonight's recording. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and I guess next time we'll be covering the second half of season 1B. And I think this is kind of where we'll start like start popping off. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We can kind of like go more into like the rest of the season. But until then, thanks for listening, and see you guys next time. Say goodnight, everyone.
Peace, everybody.
See ya.
See ya.